Jack wiped the sweat from his brow as he pushed his mop bucket down the dimly lit hallway of the office building. The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting a sterile glow over the empty floors. It was past 10 p.m., and the only sound was the echo of his footsteps and the faint hum of the building's ventilation. Jack was tired, not just physically, but from the weight of a life that had never given him a moment's rest. Single fatherhood was a relentless job, far harder than any night shift he had taken as a janitor, far more demanding than the military discipline he once knew. He glanced at his watch. 9:55 p.m. His daughter, Lily, would be waiting for him at home, probably worried because he was late again. He missed her soccer game earlier that day again. The thought stabbed him like a cold knife. But bills had to be paid and the work was honest, even if unglamorous. Lily, 7 years old, was the light of his life. Her laughter was a salve to his soul. Her innocence a reminder of why he kept fighting, since his wife had passed away 2 years ago. Jack's world had shrunk to that little girl, her soft brown eyes, her tangled hair, and her quiet heart. But today something was off, something he couldn't shake. When Jack finally got home, the small apartment was dark. He called out softly, "Lily?" There was no response. He found her sitting on the worn-out couch, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit, eyes red and wide with fear. "Daddy," she whispered, barely able to speak. "Today, some boys. They scared me." Her voice trembled. "They said bad things. They pushed my friend. I was so scared." Jack's chest tightened. His protective instincts flared like a firestorm. "Who? Where? Tell me everything," he said, pulling her close. She described the 3 men, older boys from the neighborhood, bigger and rougher, who hung around near the park after school. Jack's fist clenched. He had heard enough. The next afternoon, Jack waited by the school gate. Lily came out, her small hand in his. But as they walked toward the parking lot, the 3 men appeared again, blocking their path with leering grins. "Hey, little girl, lost something?" one sneered. Jack's heart pounded as he stepped forward. The men laughed, mocking him. But Jack was not a man to be underestimated. In the parking lot's harsh daylight, a fight broke out. Jack moved with surprising speed and precision, each punch and maneuver telling a story of a man trained to survive and protect. One by one, the 3 men fell, groaning and defeated. Unable to match the strength born of a father's love and a soldier's discipline. Passers-by stopped, some pulling out phones, others just stunned by the scene. Jack turned to Lily, who looked up at him with a mix of fear and awe. "Daddy, please help her," she had said that day. And he had. He knelt down, brushing the hair from her face, promising her safety. The police arrived, taking statements. But Jack assured Lily everything would be fine. He was
tired, but in that moment, he felt invincible. Not because of his strength, but because he knew what he was fighting for. The following morning, Jack returned to work as usual. But the routine was shattered when a sharply dressed man appeared in the lobby. The man introduced himself as Admiral Collins of the Navy. His eyes held a respect that few had ever shown. The Admiral explained that Jack's past was not a secret. The Navy knew of the sacrifice he had made, leaving behind a decorated career to raise his daughter alone. The Admiral extended an offer, a chance to come back, to lead, to make a difference beyond the mop and bucket. It was a lifeline and a challenge. Jack's world tilted. Could he leave his simple life to face the past he had buried? For Lily's future? For honor? The chapter ended with Jack staring out at the horizon, wrestling with a decision that would change everything. Jack sat in his tiny apartment that morning, the weight of Admiral Collins's offer pressing down on him like a storm cloud. The Navy was calling him back, asking him to return to a world he had left behind to raise his daughter. The past he buried deep, those long nights in dangerous zones, the pain of loss. The discipline that had shaped him was suddenly resurfacing. For a moment, Jack wondered if he was strong enough to face it again, to leave behind the quiet life he had carved for Lily. But then he looked at her, fast asleep on the couch, her face peaceful and innocent, and his resolve hardened. He owed her more than safety. He owed her a future where she could walk without fear. Jack called Admiral Collins back and accepted the offer. The decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. That afternoon, Lily noticed a change in her father. He was more confident, more present, even though he was preparing for something big. He took her to the park, teaching her small self-defense moves with a gentle smile, turning fear into strength. The shy little girl started standing taller, and Jack felt pride like never before. But the men who had once threatened Lily weren't finished. They came back, emboldened and angry that their intimidation hadn't worked. Jack and Admiral Collins anticipated this. Together, they worked with the local police, ensuring the bullies faced the consequences of their actions properly this time. No more silence, no more fear. As days passed, Jack began training young kids in the neighborhood, teaching them self-defense, discipline, and courage. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was a hero in their eyes, a symbol of resilience and hope. The community rallied around him, inspired by the story of a single dad who fought to protect his daughter and, in doing so, changed the fate of many. Flashbacks intertwined with the present, moments from Jack's time as a Navy SEAL. The sacrifices he made, the comrades he lost, the wife he loved and lost, all culminating in this moment of redemption. It was a reminder that true strength comes from love.
And the willingness to fight for those you care about. Finally, Jack stood beside Lily, watching her kick a soccer ball with a new friend. She laughed freely, no longer weighed down by fear. Jack smiled, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but together they could face anything. Before he left the park that evening, Jack turned to the camera as if speaking to the world beyond, his voice steady and warm. If you're watching this, know that strength isn't about fighting alone. It's about standing up for the people you love, even when the world seems against you. To every single parent out there, keep fighting. Your love is your greatest power. And if you want to see more stories of hope, courage, and real-life heroes, don't forget to subscribe and join us, because together we're unstoppable. Jack's story was far from over, but one thing was clear. He had already won. Not just in battle, but in life. The weeks after Jack accepted the Admiral's offer felt like a whirlwind. Training intensified, but Jack never lost sight of what mattered most. Lily. Every early morning drill, every grueling workout, he carried her in his heart. The Navy's elite program challenged him physically and mentally, but it also gave him renewed purpose. For the first time in years, Jack felt the fire of his former self rekindling, not for battle alone, but to build a legacy for his daughter. Lily, too, was growing stronger. School was no longer a place of fear. She found new friends, joined the soccer team, and even stood up to a bully one afternoon. With the calm confidence she learned from her dad, Jack's pride was immeasurable. Watching her blossom reminded him that every sacrifice, every fight was worth it. But the past has a way of catching up. One evening, as Jack returned from a training session, he found a letter slipped under his door, anonymous but clear. Stay away from them. The threat was thinly veiled but unmistakable. The men who had once bullied Lily were trying to regain control, testing if the single dad was still the man they thought he was. Jack didn't flinch. He contacted Admiral Collins, who assured him the Navy's network could provide protection, not just for Jack, but for the entire family. Determined to protect his community, Jack and the Admiral organized a neighborhood watch. Jack used his training to mentor not just kids but adults too, creating a web of vigilance and strength. The town started to change, fear gave way to unity, and Jack's story spread beyond the city, inspiring countless others. One night after a community meeting, Lily hugged her father tightly. "Daddy, I'm proud of you," she said softly. Jack held back tears. "I'm proud of you too, kiddo. We're in this together." That simple moment was the reward for all the battles fought, both inside and out. Months later, the Navy held a special ceremony honoring Jack for his courage both in service and in civilian life. Admiral Collins stood beside him, presenting a medal not just for bravery in combat, but for the bravery of a father who refused to let fear win. Cameras flashed, the crowd applauded, but Jack's eyes were only on Lily. She was the true hero of the story, the reason he had never stopped fighting. Jack's journey wasn't just about taking down 3 men or answering a call to duty. It was about legacy, love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and daughter. And as he looked at the bright future ahead, Jack made a promise: no matter what came next, they would face it as one. To everyone watching this story unfold, Jack's message remains clear. Strength isn't just about muscle or medals, it's about heart. So if you believe in standing up for what's right, in fighting for your family, and in never giving up, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for more incredible stories. Because together we're stronger than any challenge life throws at us. Jack's life had transformed, but the fight for peace never truly ended. One evening, while walking Lily home from school, he noticed unfamiliar faces. Lingering near the park, a subtle reminder that threats could still lurk in shadows. But this time, Jack wasn't alone. The neighborhood watch he helped build stood ready, eyes sharp and hearts united. With calm authority, Jack approached the group, his presence alone enough to send a clear message. The days of fear were over. Lily looked up at him, her small hand gripping his tightly, eyes shining with trust. "Daddy, we're safe, right?" she asked quietly. Jack smiled, kneeling to meet her gaze. "We're stronger than ever, Lily. Together nothing can break us." As they walked home under the fading sunset, Jack felt a quiet pride not just in the battles won, but in the community they had forged. He realized that true strength wasn't just in fighting enemies, but in inspiring others to stand tall. The legacy he'd built wasn't just for Lily, it was for everyone who needed hope. Turning back to the camera, Jack's voice grew steady and warm. "If my story has touched you, if you believe in fighting for your family and your community, then join us. Subscribe, share, and be part of a movement where courage meets heart. Because when we stand together, no challenge is too great." Jack's journey was far from over. But one thing was certain. With love as his armor and unity as his weapon, he was ready for whatever came next.